I'm calling the meeting to order. Before we start, I'll just let everybody know that pursuant to Mass General Law, an audio-visual recording is being made of this, so everybody's aware. And with that, we will enter our business for tonight. First order of business, we have the open session minutes from February 17th. Have you both had a chance to review, and would one of you like to make a motion or have any comments?
I should not do that. I said my name.
Chair, I move that we accept the minutes of February 17th as written.
I'll second it.
Put it on you.
That's a motion and a second on the minutes. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next, we have a public hearing continued from last meeting. And I guess the last meeting is Ryan's here. Oh, there's people in the waiting room. We got a second here. Do we have I'm just wondering if we have the applicant here, because wasn't the last time we
Yeah,
were sort of looking?
I'm not sure who's online here. Is anybody online from Eversource? For the poll permit hearing, can you identify yourself?
With the snow, maybe they weren't able to come, or I don't know.
I haven't seen anyone, Sean, that's.
So what is there a direction that we would like to take as a board collectively in this matter? Is there something that
Well,
we've discussed a few things, so I just wanted to kind of open it up for discussion on whether or not we want to look at denying this, requiring them to put the lines underground, or etc.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I think Gordon's idea of putting the rather than poles, putting the wires underground was brilliant. I didn't think of that, but it is a very good idea. But the thing is, whether they're willing to do that, whether they're not willing to do that, whether they're going to be poles underground or anything else, or whether there's going to be any line at all, this board really ultimately has no say in the matter, because it has to do with the building of the proposed UDF, and nothing this board says will actually make a difference. It would be very, very nice. I agree to have them underground, but I just think it's important that people understand that this board is not responsible for anything that goes on up there at this point.
Yeah. Well, I know that, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
I know that this board is the deciding board to give permission to Eversource and Spectrum and anybody else who wants to put a utility pole on town property, public property. We are the ones who issue the permit and say yes or no, not the DPU. In this case, Bob's right, that anything to do with the UDF is the EPA is just going to overrule us anyway, so it doesn't matter. So, but since we have another issue that'll be talked about later, having to do with the smart meters and all that, and we don't believe that that we should be being billed for having our citizens opt out, and we don't think that we should be paying charges for them to do what they're doing now, because nobody's getting a break on their electric.
No.
You know, if they do get a smart meter, they're not getting a break. Only Eversource is going to gain money by not sending somebody around, and occasionally they may have somebody go around to read a meter. But I guess with that in mind, I have a possible motion here, which is the following. Move to continue the permit hearing until the following conditions are met. That Eversource notify all customers of the potential health and fire dangers of the new smart meters. That Eversource provide smart meter opt-outs at no charge to the customers. That new poles are only added when underground wires are not feasible to accomplish that purpose. And this motion is based on MGL Chapter 166, Section 22. That states after a public hearing, it's actually the select board may by order grant to the petitioner a location for such line, specifying therein where the poles, piers, abutments, conduits may be placed. and Mass General Law, sections 166, section 21, location of construction of electric transmission lines. This statute gives companies operating telephone, telegraph, electric cable TV, electric railroad transmission lines the right to construct those facilities in public ways, but specifically says that the facilities constructed are to be necessary to sustain or protect the wires of its line. And once Eversource is able to provide proof that the three conditions have been met, then the board will reconvene the hearing in order to grant the permit.
We have a motion on the floor
I will second it.
and a second. So is there any further discussion? And this being a public hearing, if there's someone out in the public that would like to briefly comment, I would allow that at this time, Chris, I believe I see a hand on
Yeah.
Zoom. If you want to unmute yourself, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Cornelia Kalish, a resident of Lee. I was wondering, a few things, where the Board of Health, have they taken a stand on this? That was one question, and, if you could explain a little more about the poll situation, I'm a little not up to date, but if you explain what you're talking about. And then the other thing, yeah, I mean, they're saying that it would be $34 a month for a technician to read the meter.
Hey, sorry, Cornelia, if I could just stop you.
Sure. Yep.
We're discussing a hearing for locating a couple poles. We're gonna get to smart meters
Oh, I'm
in
sorry.
a second. No, it's fine. So this is specifically about the poles that are going up, that they are applying for to put up on Woodland Road. And what was your first question? Because I think the answer was no.
Board of Health.
Board of Health, they don't weigh in on this, but that's, we'll get more into that on smart meter. So,
You're not talking about smart meters right now, you're
Yeah.
talking about another thing.
so
I apologize.
it's tangentially related, so go ahead.
I was just gonna say, they're looking to deny the pole permit, and one of the, until conditions are met, one of those conditions has to do with smart meters.
Yeah.
So.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, they're tangential. So, if there's no further comment,
Okay, so my question then, because I'm not understanding about the poll thing, but just so you can clarify for me, then in terms of polls, can you put smart meters on poles?
no, I think the smart meters are just to replace meters for different customers, whether they be residential or
Right.
commercial. So this specific public hearing is about a proposal to add two poles jointly owned by Eversource and Verizon in a location along Woodland Road near the DCR, the campground up there. And that's what we're discussing.
I see, thank you.
Gordon made a motion to table it until a number of conditions are met. Bob seconded it. That's where we're at. And if there's nothing further from anyone at this time, hearing none, I would call for a vote on the motion. All those in favor?
Gordon Bailey, aye.
Bob Jens, aye.
Sean Minier, aye. All right, that's moving on into public comment. This is a time for anybody here that would like to make a comment about anything, business or on the agenda or something else. A short comment. If you have a comment specifically about smart meters, we will get to there in a minute, and I won't cut anyone off from speaking about smart meters. I see one hand on there. Kay Hall, if you want to unmute and introduce yourself.
Hi, Kathy Hall, Birch Street. I went on my laptop a little bit later today, but past 3:30, and I was upset with myself that I missed the meeting. Maybe it was canceled because of the weather, of the reuse of the fire station. Can you just give me a brief summary if that went on? And was it on video that we could see it later on CTSB?
It's my understanding that the reuse committee met just now, right?
Mhm.
And I don't have I'm not on that committee, so I don't have an update for you, but if one of you would like to briefly.
Yeah, Kathy, basically, we're getting ready for an informational meeting on the 26th. It'll be in the cafeteria at the Lehigh.
Okay. That's the one,
March 26th.
26th at 6
yeah,
p.m.
that's the one I'm talking about. So I got confused
Yeah.
that it was today.
That
But I
hasn't
think
happened.
it was further, all right, so that's further down in March
Yeah.
where it'll be in the cafeteria. Will that be videotaped for CTSB or you don't know yet?
That's the plan. We've requested, we're waiting to hear back, but they always do when we ask, they've always done it. So I'm certain that we'll be able to accommodate us, but the request has been submitted.
Okay,
The whole reuse committee will be there. There'll be graphics, there'll be illustrations, whatever, and then a description of the various groups that will be a part of this project. But
Okay.
I would encourage you and anybody you can get to come to please do so.
yes, okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
One last call for public comment. Seeing none, I will move into general business. Our first order of general business is an update from Wildcat Sports Group, but I was told that they couldn't make it today, so we will revisit that at a future meeting. So that brings us to the discussion on a community educational forum of smart meters. And we were contacted by a couple individuals who had something to present. And before that, I want to just kind of comment myself, because Gordon kind of said, and this is kind of ties to back to the polls too, but Gordon mentioned something in our last meeting I just couldn't get out of my head. And I don't think there's an Eversource person here or somebody from the Department of Public Utilities, but I'm having a hard time understanding how they can switch these smart meters out, and us customers have seen no significant reduction in the rate for energy or the delivery. Yet to opt out of these meters, you have to pay them a significant increase for the old meter. So I'm really having a hard time understanding how that math works. Does anybody sort of follow my thought process? And again, I don't think there's anybody here that can speak to that. I was kind of hoping an Eversource guy would be here, but,
They did say they would come next meeting.
and here we are.
Well, again.
Oh, next meeting,
Yeah.
not this one.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we'll get an answer, but yeah. So that's a part of this that's pretty frustrating, and it's just kind of an unfair system that we have from my perspective as a customer. So with all that said, there's a lot of other things that I think want to be said about these smart meters, and I don't know exactly who is on Zoom to present, so maybe Sabrina, can you help me out here?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
if I could, before we go to the public,
Sure.
I know that what you just mentioned, I brought up the very first night, two meetings ago, is that not only do they want to charge you 40 something dollars to not take the meter, that they want to charge you, in addition to that, like $34 or $39 every month, because they're saying they're having somebody drive around.
It's somewhere
And-
in the neighborhood of $400 something
Yeah.
dollars a year.
So, and what I'm saying is, okay, right now they have somebody driving around. So if they're not going to do that in my neighborhood, then where's my rebate on that $34?
Thank you. Yeah, that's
Because
what,
if I'm not, and if I don't want one, I have to pay $39 to let that guy read my meter, but I don't get any credit. I'd like to, if Eversource is coming next time, I'd just like that put on the record, give them a notice to explain that.
The math
How
doesn't math.
exactly, yeah, how exactly, why isn't there some little, well, they've got about 10 different little mini charges that they get you with every month that you have no idea what they mean. So where is it that they're going to give me a rebate on that? Because they just saved a lot of money. So how did they explain that? Number one, how did they explain it to the DPU? So that the DPU doesn't have a reduction line? And then how are they justifying this other than they're making more money for people who buy their stock and pay their corporate officers, but where's our rebate on that? So if we could officially ask them to address that, I would appreciate it. Other than that, I'm ready to listen to whomever.
Before Bob, is there anything else you wanna?
No, Gordon, both you and Gordon have said it quite well, and I agree. I mean, they're a public utility, but
Yeah.
they're a private business as well.
Yeah,
And so I just want people to understand that we are very limited in what we can do other than protest, as we are and have been doing.
mhm.
But I think that people deserve answers to those questions.
And the DPU gives them a guaranteed profit. How many businesses have that?
Yeah,
Right.
and
Ask around town, how many businesses have a guaranteed profit?
to me,
Nobody.
that's one part of this discussion that has been illuminating now that we're kind of peeling the layers of the onion back. And I know that there's a lot of other concerns, of which there's some evidence for about health concerns and safety concerns when it comes to potential fire. So yeah, with that, Theodora, do you have something that you would like to present?
Yes, thank you. I was told I have 10 minutes.
Does she have screen sharing?
I believe you should be good to screen share.
So if you have something to share, you can put it on the screen. You should be able
Great.
to.
Yeah, multiple participants can share simultaneously.
Oops,
There you go.
Yeah,
sorry.
we can see that.
Good.
So
I imagine so. There we go. Okay.
great.
Okay, great. So first I should introduce myself. My name is Theodora Scarrato, and I was asked to come yesterday, so I pulled together a bunch of slides and I'm gonna flip through some of them in order to keep this tight. I am director of the wireless and EMF program at Environmental Health Sciences. I have been working in this field of non-ionizing radiation with a focus on policy and public health protection for, gosh, now about 13, 14 years. And I published in the field with scientists just recently, and I'll be talking about a paper I just published on policy related to the issue of RF radiation. So smart meters emit wireless RF radiation. I'm sure you've heard about this from a lot of your residents. And I was I was executive director of the organization that sued the FCC or took legal action against the FCC on this issue. And we had a favorable ruling in 2021. I'll be talking about that. And there's a lot to say about smart meters. I would like to just start off by saying, I came into this issue back in 2012, and smart meters was what was happening all over the country. And I remember I was trying to find a place to live. I needed a 2-bedroom. I'm in the Washington, D.C. metro area, already very challenging. But what I kept running into, and I did not have a meter, I should say, so I couldn't measure the radiation. I now have a consumer grade measure, but I was going to different apartment buildings and condos, and time after time, I ran into situations where there would be these banks of meters on the wall. I remember one place that I thought was perfect, and I didn't see any meters anywhere, not on the outside. But then I went into the laundry room just as actually I was there to take the next step with them, and found that on the wall where my kid's bedroom would have been was a whole wall of these meters. Since then, I have found meters in such interesting places, like one building, the kitchen, which was very small, there was a little door in the kitchen. And I thought, well, what is that? As I looked at many apartments, as you can imagine, when you are looking for apartments and you're trying to be low EMF. And I opened the door, and there was a meter right there. It would have been just inches from where I would have been cooking. So all this to say, it's very challenging, even if there is a free opt-out, to really opt out. That's why I really recommend and believe that the safest thing is not to have any RF emitting meters. In fact, to keep your analog meters if you have them. So there are three things I hope to get through and open up discussion on, and please feel free to ask me any questions. That is that they do increase daily exposure to this non-ionizing kind of RF electromagnetic radiation. That FCC limits, which are government limits, they are non-protective. They were not designed to even address long-term impacts. They are only designed for short-term impacts, and that local authorities can adopt safer technology solutions. There's so many things available. And if you're interested in this issue, please take a look at my latest paper on US policy. I talk about the whole history of this issue in the United States and how we came to this moment where there's smart everything and these smart meters. It's not just utility meters, but now there's water meters and gas meters, and yet there has not been a proper review of safety on these technologies. So smart meters emit short, intense, pulsed radiation. It's artificial and non-ionizing. There's a mesh network generally with these meters where they are chattering back and forth to each other, and actually passing along the information to often a collection meter. They can transmit thousands of times a day. These are intense, short pulses. So it's not like they're always pulsing continuously in the sense that every moment of every minute is a pulse. However, there are continuous 24/7 short pulses, intense and short pulses a day. And that elevates the ambient environmental level in the environment. Now, they can average over 9,000, actually I've heard many more pulses a day, with a maximum of 190,000 transmissions a day. At least this is according to the Pacific Gas and Electric when they had to answer questions to California State Public Utilities Commission a few years ago. So oftentimes we hear, oh, it's so short. Like in our community, the company said that it was only 2 minutes. That just 2 minutes, they're only transmitting 2 minutes. And it seems like, well, that's not a lot. However, these short, intense pulses, your body can, at the cellular level, there can be biological reactions to these intense, short pulses that they do emit. And Dr. David Carpenter came to our community and presented. He's a Harvard-trained physician researcher who also...
We're actually very well aware of Dr. David Carpenter. He's well known in this community.
Oh, okay, great. Well, he came and talked about, and maybe he was talking about some of the many other environmental issues and exposures. Yeah, like forever chemicals and all, all of them. So he also is an expert on non-ionizing electromagnetic fields. And he came and presented to our water authority. And this is just a slide from his talk. I wanted to pop this up here. So maybe later you will go to ehsciences.org, our website, and we have a video of that testimony that he gave, as well as his documents, that he submitted to WSSC. And he talked about the pulses from meters. He also has sent letters, which you can go online to read, talking about how, sometimes you'll hear, oh, it's not even as much as a cell phone. Well, first of all, these are the same kind of radiation, but different exposures in different ways. And he talks about that in his letter. Smart meters will create full body exposures and not those short, intense, or I should say intense exposures to certain tissue of your body. And also it's involuntary. So there are a lot of people who want to minimize their exposure to protect their health. And if there are smart meters everywhere, they don't have a say with that overlapping layer of exposure. There's a real regulatory gap when it comes to this kind of radiation. When I first learned about this, the first thing I did was go to the EPA, to the National Cancer Institute, to the CDC to see, well, what did they say? Have they looked at this issue? Now, there has been no review by any of these agencies of this issue for, well, for most of them, never, but for the EPA, not since the mid-80s. The National Cancer Institute has not deemed smart meter radiation nor RF radiation is safe. The CDC, FDA, none of them have looked at the totality of the evidence at all, much less smart meters specifically. And I talk about this in my paper, the policy paper in Frontiers in Public Health, that there just has been an absence of research and long-term research on this issue. We don't have pre-market safety testing. We don't have post-market health surveillance. So we're not even tracking what the medical impact and the public health impact is in the United States. There are so many studies, which I'm not going to go into, but you can go to many different websites to read all of the research. Not all the science shows effects, but the majority of studies actually do. And Dr. Henry Lai has compiled studies and been looking at them for decades now. And every few months, he will put out his tally of studies. And most recently, in December, he put out that 89% of oxidative studies that looked at oxidative stress found effects, 71% of those that looked at genetic effects, 77% of neurological effects, and 84% of reproduction and developmental effects. And you can go to Dr. Joel Moskowitz's website, it's Safer EMR, to see that. You can also go to the International Commission for the Biological Effects of Electromagnetic Fields, ICBE/EMF. Children are uniquely vulnerable. The American Academy of Pediatrics has written the FCC numerous times asking the agency to update their limits for what we're allowed to be exposed to. So smart meters will add a layer into the air. Yes, there are a lot of sources in our everyday environment. This will be yet another layer. There is research on all kinds of sources that have found it penetrates deeper into children's bodies and brains. They have smaller heads, thinner skulls. Their tissues contain a higher proportion of water, so the electromagnetic energy can actually travel more efficiently through their tissue. And because they are developing, their brains and bodies are more sensitive, far more sensitive. Now, research on smart meters, this is a simulation actually that was done on looking at smart meters and absorption into the body. And they found generally that children have higher whole body exposures compared to adults. I talked about ICBE EMF. You can also go to the EMF Scientist Appeal. That is an appeal by 258 scientists from 44 nations who have published in the field of non-ionizing electromagnetic fields that recommend reducing exposure because of the studies that show cancer risk, cellular stress, increase in harmful free radicals, which can actually create inflammation, and genetic damages, and what I just discussed with Dr. Henry Lai, memory, neurological, and general impacts. Oh, I also wanted to share with you that there have been many moratoriums and calls for protections. The League of United Latin American Citizens actually put out a statement that they wanted a moratorium on smart meters until the issues were resolved that are still open in terms of safety, health, and privacy. This radiation is classified as a possible carcinogen, and that was back in 2011, based on studies where they looked at cell phones. But remember, it's wherever it comes from, it is. So it might be a different kind of exposure, which it is, but it's still radio frequency. Now, they have not updated this determination. The International Agency for Research However, there are many scientists that say the classification should be either probable or proven based on the current science. So also, if you go to the manual for the meter, or actually the way I found this is going online to the FCC, they actually say that they must be installed with a separation distance of 20 centimeters. And that's because they're tested at 20 centimeters to be compliant with our FCC limits. Our FCC limits, which are set in 1996, they were not designed to address biological or long-term effects or cumulative sources like all the different things. There were no smart meters in 1996. They were not designed to address children's vulnerability because we did not have, in fact, studies that looked at how children could be impacted by RF radiation, nor to address wildlife protection. Now, from 2013 to 2019, because people always ask, well, haven't they been reviewed? Or does anyone think maybe we should relook at these limits that we have for what we're allowed to be exposed to from wireless radiation? Actually, let me show you this. So this is for RF. These are our RF radiation limits. I have here cell tower radiation limits because it's for, we use what the limits are for cell towers. It's what's in the air, the environmental limits. And the United States allows levels 10 to 100 times more than many other countries because our limits were set in 1996. They haven't been updated since. And also our country wants proof of harm first. And actually, there are a lot of reasons that I'm glad to answer questions another time, but there are just so many reasons why we have not changed our limits. However, in 2013, the FCC said, why don't we look into this? They put out a massive document asking a lot of questions. It was an open inquiry where thousands of submissions were brought in, including from Boston, Massachusetts, and many municipalities around the country. And they answered what they thought about whether the FCC should update its limits. And it was a resounding yes. These limits need to be looked at. They were set in 1996. They are only based on animal studies that were done in the 70s and 80s, where rats and a few small monkeys, and there were a few rats and a few monkeys, were trained to press a lever for food, and they were exposed to microwaves, radio frequency, for under an hour. And the level at which they did not press a lever for food, even though they had been starved, was considered the level of adverse effect, the biological impact, behavioral impact to the small mammals. That is the level at which our limits are based. They then went down in an arbitrary manner, and they even say it's arbitrary, and they came up with the limit that we have today in the United States. This is not acceptable. It's not based on, like, public health authorities do not set limits in this manner. But that's how they were set many years ago. So Boston did a filing to the FCC calling for a review, along with many scientists and many published papers which were submitted. And I would just want to read a little bit from the city of Boston. Boston believes the concerns of the public are real and that the commission has done a disservice to itself, local government, and consumers, and even the wireless industry, in failing to understand and respond to the broadly shared mistrust of the safety of RF emissions. And maybe I won't read the whole thing except to say what they talk about in there. They submitted several filings in several proceedings. What they talk about is how local authorities, such as yourself, are in this position where you're being asked to do something, but you don't have limits that you can depend on because the limits are unchanged since 1996. And my gosh, I just did this slide deck, and I'm sorry, I should have had this a little bit earlier, but when the FCC decided then in 2019, they said, we do not need to change our limits. So then we sued, as did other organizations, and the DC Circuit made a decision that was favorable in our case, stating that the decision by the FCC not to update its 1996 limits for how much we're allowed to be exposed to of RF radiation, which is emitted from smart meters and many other sources. The court found that they had ignored much of the scientific research on the record and not properly examined non-cancer impacts to the brain, reproductive system, long-term exposure, children's vulnerability, compliance tests, environmental issues such as birds, bees, and trees. And the court ordered the FCC to explain how its limits were protective for the issues it had ignored. And I should note that the Building Biology Institute documented, they had an amicus in our case, and they documented many people reporting illness after smart meter deployment. I hear from people all over the country, and in fact the world, who have been exposed to RF radiation, many of them from smart meters that cause them to be sick. So
Thank you, Theodora. I
Thank
want
you.
to make sure that I get everybody a chance to speak. Gordon, did you have something?
Yeah, I just want to know, what I was going to say is this is a great presentation. Don't mean to cut you off by any means, but right now on our agenda, it's a discussion about having the community educational forum. And really, everything you presented should really, it would be much more valuable to do it there.
At the community.
At the community, if you could do it then. I mean, I think a much more appropriate place for a bigger audience. Right now, we don't even have our community television here, which usually we do have our community television. So, I mean, this is great information, and I'd love you to be able to present this to all the citizens instead of just like 4 or 5 of us in the room at the moment and anybody who may want to check it out later. But, it would be great. And I have another question just to follow up. And we've heard from a number of people about this over the last couple meetings. And I guess what's finally struck me is how much of this information was actually presented at the DPU in Massachusetts to give them this information before they just voted on Eversource being able to do all this. No, you don't have to answer that. I'm just saying it's a rhetorical kind of a question. It's like, where is all this information been? Or was it all presented and they just dismissed it all? At some point, I'm going to look into that. I may write to the DPU myself just to say, what is going on with this, with all this information? How did you guys do this? And who presented information to you when you held your hearing? Because I would like to know that. Anyway, again, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think this would be and not to stop you necessarily, but I think this is exactly what we'd appreciate you doing at the community meeting when we have a gymnasium, an auditorium full of people. I think that would be great. Unfortunately, our hands are tied, other than to say, we're going to have a community discussion, but we don't get to vote. We don't get to do a moratorium. I mean, we've looked into all this, believe me, and gotten legal advice, but love to have you do it and give all this information to our citizens. Thank you.
I know Sabrina has your contact. Is that something you'd be willing to, or at least providing some slides and some information for us for that?
Sure, always. And I know there's several other experts who could present as well. That would be fabulous.
That'd be
I'll
great.
send you my slides too.
Great. Thank you.
A previous, just for the board, so besides Theodora, CC, who came to two, has also offered to do the same thing. So
And
I
then
think
there's
this
Catherine Levin from last time.
correct. Yeah. So
So I have her card still.
the big, what the board does need to decide tonight is if it wants to go through with a larger community forum. That was the purpose of general business C or B rather, and I will, upon the board's instruction to do so, I can reach out to the school to make that happen as soon as you would like. So.
Well, it seems like a hot enough, Mr. Chairman, it seems like a hot enough topic and it's certainly a public safety and public health concern that I think we should have a forum. And anybody who has these like concerns I think it's really important to have the information that was presented tonight, presented there, as well as the other 2 presenters who have presented to us in the past, so that more than just the 3 of us, because we've already sent a letter to our legislators to say, this is not right. And to revisit this and maybe even if they aren't gonna be able to do it through the DPU, maybe do some legislation
Mhm.
that would force the DPU's hand to actually start getting real information instead of just listening to what Eversource needs. So I would suggest that we do instruct the town administrator to reach out to the school for a date and a time, and then reach back to our three presenters we've heard so far to have them there to present to everybody who has a concern, and CTSB would then have it on record that people could watch who couldn't make the meeting.
Yeah,
That'd be my thought.
I concur. Bob?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think that I've tried to educate myself and
So much.
for me, it was impossible. I mean, I'm hearing that 90% of the homes in Great Britain have smart meters. But I'm also reading about the issues that were discussed this evening,
Yeah.
about them catching on fire,
Mhm.
about privacy issues and all that. But if we're going to do this public informational thing, are we also going to include Eversource in that?
I think we have to.
Yeah.
I think we have to,
Absolutely.
so that it can go back and forth, because I haven't settled
Yeah.
on this myself, and I need to be educated more thoroughly.
Is Eversource the only electrical utility company that
The only one
provides
that
it in
provides in
town?
Lee, yeah.
In Lee,
Lee,
right,
yeah.
that's what I was,
Yeah.
yeah.
Late.
There's some towns that are split between Eversource and
National
National
Grid.
Grid. I
That
think
makes sense.
Lennox, for example, I think Great Barrington, for example.
I just as long as we got
Yeah.
our providers at the table, I didn't want to miss anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good, good.
I assume since these meters are being installed as we speak, you would like to do that sooner than later, or
Yeah.
as soon as if I reach out to the school and get some dates, I can
The-
get back to the.
I mean, at the
presenters.
beginning of March, sometime
Mhm.
this month, maybe towards the end of the month, is that seems
Absolutely.
sufficient?
Sure.
I mean, I have questions like, if they're gonna change out my meter, is it just the meter shelf? Do they take the whole box off? And then is there a way to have a protective back layer that will not allow the RF frequencies to come into my house? That only goes directed out. And then if I decide to wrap that in heavy duty aluminum foil, will that stop the RF from going in or out? You know, what I mean, things like that. And like Eversource to weigh in and say, am I creating a fire hazard by doing something like that? If I don't want them to have moment by moment, second by second, oversight of what I'm using for power. I'll unwrap it once a month so they can, get a reading and charge me.
So I don't want to, because we do have other businesses we want to get to tonight. I don't want, and we're doing a community forum on this. I don't want to waste a ton more time, but if there's somebody that has a quick comment, I see Cornelia has her hand up. So please, just, if you could be brief.
Hi, I did listen, was it this week or last week? You had the forum on the town website that you could listen, so I learned a lot from that. But my main question is, I have the letter from Eversource dated 12/4 that they're going to be doing this. So all this education,
Right.
it's already going to be done.
That's why we've said as a board, and this is not, I mean, it's frustrating for us and it's frustrating for everybody, but we don't have any real authority in this matter to make any, changes to this. We could potentially do a moratorium bylaw, but it's just going to get thrown out by the AG because the state has decided that this is happening. So we're preempted already, and that's kind of where we're at as a board. So that's
So,
why we're going
I have a
through.
couple things I want to say. One is, I would like, if you can.
One second,
Can I
Cornelia.
address one thing?
Sorry, I'll come back to you, but yeah.
No, just in response, just so we take them one at a time, that my understanding is even if they're in, they're gonna put them in, but they can shut off. Now, they can shut off that frequency, which triggers the $34 a month for them to come. So even with a new meter, you can shut it off. One of the hopes that I think the board has, I don't want to speak for the board, is that maybe we could at least get the fee taken off if you want to shut it off.
Yeah.
So even if it's in, you can shut off the radio frequency. Now, I don't know, there's other controversies just by replacing it, but that's deals with one of them. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Cornelia.
So I have a few things. One of the things for me specifically is I want to be here when they install it because I've had an electrician tell me to be careful with my present meter even of how it's installed. And I do not want to incur more costs in terms of the wiring and how it's on my house. So I would hope that you as a town would insist that they at least allow you to be there when they do it.
I'm sorry, I just want to address it one at a time. We don't have that authority to insist on that, so sorry.
Hmm. Well, you can speak, you've been making letters, so that's a request I have.
Okay.
And then I have different questions. One, I read that the state rep Reyes has submitted something. I don't know enough about it, and that there's going to be, it's been in the docket for
For a year,
a year,
Bill
but that
3551.
but then on 3/18 of this year, they're supposed to review something. Who knows if they will, but I don't know enough about it. And then the other thing is I want to know about where the Board of Health stands.
Yeah.
And what was the other thing?
We did just quickly on the Board of Health,
Yep.
Jim Willis with Tri-Town did come and speak to this at I think it was the first meeting when we started to discuss this. So if you go back to those recordings, you can kind of get his at least initial take.
What?
TSB.
Okay.
I want to say it was like 3 or maybe 4 meetings
Okay.
prior to this one.
And then so well, okay. Right. And then what was the other thing? Yeah, I agree with you in terms of the money. It's just like a huge one technician for $34 an hour,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
go in my neighborhood and get it done. Yeah.
It's not $34 an hour. It's for him to
I
drive.
know. What I'm saying, they're charging each person versus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We understand. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and what else? Anything that you want to say?
No.
All right. Thank you, Cornelia. I have one other hand. Cindy, do you have something briefly you'd like to say?
Yes, there was another speaker tonight, Patricia Burke. You just may want to give her 2 minutes at least to see her.
Yeah.
Courtney might have something to say, but I just wanted to say, I know you said something about the AG didn't go along with something in some other town, but I'm saying in order to get a moratorium or even try to, we have nothing to lose because it's just a stall tactic and a delay for us not to be bombarded by the smart meters in the meanwhile, to just stop them so people can be educated.
I understand, but actually they're already overwhelmingly in. And so to stop them, they've already been changed out. I understand. I'm not trying to like dismiss what you're saying, but like on my house, it's already swapped out. And I know I've heard from a lot of people they're already done. And
You let them swap yours out? You let them swap yours out?
It's my opinion as the chair of this board, and I'm curious to see what the other members think. But until we have this community discussion, I'm not sure we should rush into to take any specific action on a bylaw or something like that at this point. So
Okay.
that's my initial thought.
Okay, but for the
And
forum, I just want to say there's Ken Gartner we can have and David Carpenter. All these people would be more than happy to be involved, so we have a big group. And Cece did a forum on February 25th. 103 people showed up. She
No.
sent the email of the slides, and it really was very, very excellent. They gave so much more information than you can imagine. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And Patricia, I didn't mean to skip over. If you have something to say, now is the time. But Courtney has her hand up too.
Sure. Is it possible to screen share my slides?
I think we gave permission.
Yeah, you should be able
You should be able to.
Okay, how do I do this?
Memory is just.
Yeah,
You know.
again, if this is going to be more information that would be better served to a community educational, I would maybe ask you to, give us a few clip notes and then to maybe submit and be a part of that discussion that we have later this month.
Yeah, sure. So in during the Patrick administration back in 2008, the Green Communities Act required that the investor-owned utilities conduct a smart meter pilot program. And Eversource actually came out against smart meters. And this was a testimony that they gave in New Hampshire, where they explained that they tried to enroll 53,000 people and they ended up with 3%. And they gave their reasons for why we shouldn't be doing smart meters to modernize the grid. And so I guess what I want to caution you is that it wasn't really that Eversource forced the hand at the Department of Public Utilities, but it was the other way around. Department of Public Utilities across the country have been driving this ship. And this is the other piece that I'd like to just leave with you. The Massachusetts Department of Public Utilities hired or had an expert give his expert testimony about smart meters. This is Peter Wahlberg, who talked about why the smart meters are safe and healthy. And this is the testimony that he did the same week for Philip Morris Cigarettes in Ohio, because he is literally a tobacco scientist. The states that didn't use gradient used exponent, and they testified in Nevada, but basically the entire health testimony is on the basis of mercenary product defense. This is Peter Wahlberg, and these are some of the problem industries that he defends. So I really want to thank the board. I have quite a bit more information, but this is one slide from Eric Windham of California showing the pulses coming into his living room from his neighbor's smart meter, which is 21 feet away. So we have on our little blog for Stop Smart Meter, Smart Meter Science, we have a smoking smart meter, both because of the fires and because of all of the science that comes from the tobacco scientists. I think that the town has a remarkable opportunity to raise the issues about problems with the Department of Public Utilities and the smart meters. And I really want to thank you for all the questions that you're asking. And I hope that you will hold a forum. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll just go to Courtney for one final comment before we move on.
Yeah, this is Courtney. I want to thank you so much for learning about this issue. I did listen in on the last meeting, and I know that you're all working so hard to take this all in and learn not just about the meters, but also about what you can do. And I heard something from the last meeting that was troubling, and I wanted to follow up on it. I reached out to our telecom attorney and I asked him the question, does Section 704 of the Telecommunications Act of 1996 limit how state and local governments can regulate RF health concerns related to smart meters specifically? The answer was loud and clear. No. A state and local government can freely choose to not have smart meters and to have an opt-out. Nothing in federal law requires smart meters to deploy or not have an opt-out, and they could expressly do so based on health effects. I then asked, please tell me more. The telecom attorney responded, Section 332C7B of the Telecommunications Act, which you cannot cite a cell tower on the basis of environmental effects, which is often read as health effects. That provision simply does not apply because a smart meter is not a cell tower and is not considered by law a personal wireless device. Indeed, none of 332 applies since smart meters, again, are not considered a mobile service. I reached out to Jim Willits. As you know, he has publicly made statements and he has been a huge supporter of the RF wireless harms issue because I wanted to have this conversation with him prior to this meeting, but unfortunately, he didn't get around to returning my message. The Lee Select Board absolutely does not have to wait until the Pittsfield cell tower case has been decided in Supreme Judicial Court. As you know, that is a case that I've been involved in for the last 6 years. That case is specific to cell towers and cell tower harm after it's been cited and not specific to smart meters. The FCC does have registration rules for admitting devices like smart meters, and the exposure rules do apply, but a health board can reach this topic. But the best approach, according to the telecom attorney, is going for an opt-out. I am so grateful that you guys are willing to have a community-wide forum with Theodora Scarrato, Dr. Kent Chamberlain, Patricia Burke, Mass for Safe Technology, the experts that have presented to you. I'd also encourage you to include a telecom attorney in that panel who knows what's what and can provide a foundation for you guys for taking positive and protective action. I'd also like to ask you to invite all of our state representatives in the area and our senators, especially Senator Paul Mark, who has sponsored that opt-out bill. I know we personally have testified on it in the last 3 legislative sessions. So for the last 6 years, people like Patricia and Theodora have been working on it for the last 14 years. So time is of the essence with the rollout, and this bill is being heard, and a little bit of pressure from our communities might go a long way to finally getting it over the edge. It seems like the utilities say what they want to say, and they're not hearing from the constituents, and they're not hearing from the doctors and the scientists who are telling people who A, are sensitive, B, have had pre-existing health conditions to not expose themselves to this. But the only way we can do that is with the legislative support. So please invite them as well so they can get behind your efforts. And we thank and commend each of you for all of your work tonight.
Thank you. With that, we will move on and look to hold a community meeting later this month.
I'll report back with more
Yeah,
information.
please.
Mr. Chair, I mean, interesting,
Mr.
if I
Bailey,
could ask you,
absolutely.
just you, I'm not going out to the public, but maybe it just struck me as she's mentioning, inviting Senator Mark and others. Maybe we should reach out to each community that touches ours, Beckett, Great Barrington, Lenox, Stockbridge, to see if there's, see if those select board members would like to come, and also to have them invite their citizens to come. At least we could do it as a bigger group.
I'm fine with that.
And therefore, maybe more letters from more citizens to all of the legislature, especially Speaker of the House and President Senate. That's who they have to get to, to show that people are not satisfied with this. So that would just be a thought. Open it up.
I agree.
That was going to be what my comment was, exactly, that to get the other towns instead of each town doing this repeatedly.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Thank you.
I wonder whether we should reach out to Jeremiah, to town council, to find out exactly what our options are as a select board in addressing this.
Okay.
All right. With that, we have an application for a utility cut permit next on our agenda. This is Mr. Roeder Plumbing is the contractor. 194 Howland Ave. No, that's their address. This is happening at 10 3rd Street. I have a payment for our what's the bond? Yeah. Blanking on the term. Thank you. So for our bond, is there any discussion, or is one of you like to make a motion? See, we don't have police officer yet.
Perhaps we could make it contingent on.
She's been out with them.
Right, yeah. So, I'd like to, that's fine. The motion could be contingent on police, approval, and, it's also his discretion on the detail.
Okay, if you want a motion, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the permit for Mr. Roeder Plumbing for 10 3rd Street.
Oh, yeah, so that is a private road, so I don't know if we even.
Really?
3rd Street.
I'm not sure why this one even came to us, honestly, because the 3rd Street.
3rd Street is,
not.
I live over by 3rd Street, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's
It's not a town.
first Cone and then 3rd. 3rd's not a town on road.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That's why that triggered, but I mean, I don't think it matters.
So
Well, why don't
should we
we move
move it?
ahead?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
kind of what
let's
I'm
be
thinking.
safe.
Yeah.
They're
So-
not gonna want police detail.
No,
No,
yeah,
no.
that makes sense then, yeah, okay, yeah. And it's not our authority to force it on them, it's not our road, right? So,
No, but the trench permits they have to do no matter what.
no matter what. So, so in that case, we don't need to make it contingent on police approval.
Mhm.
Okay. So do I have a motion for approval?
For
With all that
the
said.
work to be done at 10 Third Street.
Yeah.
I'll make that one.
I'll second.
Is there anything further? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next we have an announcement of the road toll results. So here in Lee, we have a road toll program that certain Saturdays we allow people, nonprofit organizations to do a toll stop out in front of town hall. And this year, the winners, I suppose, because we had to do a drawing, and there will be a number of groups guaranteed in for next year that didn't make it this year. So for this year, Saturday, April 25th is the LYA. Saturday, May 2nd, Lee Middle and High School baseball. Saturday, May 16th, Lee Middle and High School girls volleyball. Saturday, May 23rd, the VFW. Saturday, June 6th, Knights of Columbus. Saturday, June 20th, Lee Middle and High School boys basketball. Saturday, September 26th, Lee Middle and High School golf. Saturday, October 24th, Housatonic River Initiative, and the applicants guaranteed for next year is the Kiwanis Club, Lee, is that
Lee
elementary?
Elementary, yeah.
Yeah, Lee Elementary School PTO, Sons and Daughters of Italy, Wildcat Sports Group, and the Lee Lions Club. So we don't need a motion to approve that. That's just, that's this year's road toll. We will move on to our next item, which is a handbook amendment. There's kind of two policies that we're adding to the handbook here, Chris.
Yeah, this
or
just has-
it's,
has to do
they're
with-
very similar, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, with two departments within the DPW that have union labor and non-union labor.
Yeah,
And this is more of a clarifying thing with the Fair Standards Labor Act. There are times when we would normally give overtime, but that Labor Act does not allow overtime on hours not worked. In other words, if someone takes a vacation on a Monday and then Friday they have to come in for a fill-in, they would not be eligible because they hadn't done their 40 hours. So this addresses what they would consider premium pay or call-ins outside of a normal schedule. That's the main thing. And it just brings them in line, and union and non-union workers
Mhm.
together. So this was always, it is basically the same practice we've always used. It's no change.
we're just
But
we're just
because-
codifying it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're codifying it, just to make, to accommodate the Fair Standards Labor Act and how that reads. So we had to just adjust the wording on it.
okay, understood. Any questions?
No.
If there are none, I have a motion to accept the handbook amendment?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to accept the updates to the what is it? The handbook amendments for the highway supervisor mechanic and also the wastewater or the water treatment and wastewater policies.
Second that.
Motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. All right, and next order of business, we have a temporary sign permit. The fee is paid. This is for Fabian Corp. Advertising a lease space, 3 foot by 4 foot signs. Does he give us a number? I
Well,
can't
yeah,
remember if he gives us a
the
number.
4 foot by 20 foot
Right.
line, the
there's-
building,
so
which
there's
is
a
all
couple
legit.
different- Yep.
Mhm.
So I think it's just the one sign, no, 2, requesting 2 signs. So there's the
3 altogether.
2 signs and then the third one on the building.
Yep.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we grant the temporary sign that's the Xavier Corporation.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. And if there's nothing further, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next order of business is an ADA transportation plan amendment and transition plan amendment. Adding some language around web accessibility and.
Yeah, so we
and
did our
access.
transition plan. It's still a valid plan that was adopted last year.
Yeah.
But since then, new federal ADA Title II now has requirements on how municipal websites and permitting sites have to have certain accommodations. For example, if someone's colorblind, you can't have two light colors near each other. There's supposed to be a certain degree of contrast. If there's pictures are supposed to have you'd be able to hover over and get a caption, or if you have a device that reads those to you.
Okay.
So our town website is, we'll be launching an update to that within the next month or so. It's taking a little longer than we planned, but based on the size of our town, we don't have to be fully implemented until April of 2027. And even then, where there's some flexibility in how we, on some of the vendors and so forth, how they have to deliver that. But in any event, this is just adding that to our ADA plan. Our website will be up and running well before that time to be completely accessible. We have some, we wanted to make sure this was added in because some of our permitting software is being updated by the vendor, and we want to recognize in here that we are working with them to get, as well as all the other towns in the Commonwealth, to get that transition done. So this just adds a new section to the plan for the website and the permitting software. Like when you get a building permit, a health permit, those are in progress. So
Thank you, Chris. So, if there's no other questions, I entertain a motion to accept the amendment.
I would make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve the ADA transition plan amendment.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
And if there's no further discussion, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and that brings us to our last order of general business. And approval of amendment number 2. This is a intermunicipal agreement between the shared inspectional and zoning enforcement services among the towns Great Barrington, Lee, Lennox, Stockbridge, and West Stockbridge. So Chris, do you want to, is there
yeah,
something
this is
you want
just
to
adding
give us?
Marlboro into it. Is all in that town was not part of it. They will be added. It's no additional staffing that's required to it. It's a small enough town that we can do it within our current structure. So the benefit to, is it's not going to cost us more staffing money, but we'll get money
some
from
revenue.
Marlboro, which
Yeah.
helps all the other towns out.
Yep.
So one of our inspectors currently does that on the side anyway, which is completely allowable, but this will just wrap them into one, to our system. So
Great.
it will be really no major transition for them other than to utilize not only the inspector on the regular during regular work hours, but also the administrative assistant services that come with that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, because this may have to do with some money articles on this, I'm going to abstain from discussions and votes.
Understood. So if do you have anything else?
No.
I would entertain a motion to approve the amendment number 2 to the intermunicipal agreement.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve addendum number 2 to the intermunicipal agreement as written here.
And I will second. And if there's nothing further,
Just to authorize the board,
Authorize-
chair to sign.
And to authorize the chair.
I'll second that motion. And we will call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. One abstain. And that will bring us to any topic not anticipated, which I have nothing at the moment. Gordon, Bob?
No.
No, sir.
Chris, I will hand it off to you for a reuse update that you kind of already heard a little bit from Bob.
Yeah, so kind of going off Kathy Hall's earlier question, we are having a meeting, a public informational meeting. We'll be in the cafeteria of the high school, middle school on March 26th at 6 p.m. That president will have a presentation and some, design information to share.
That's all gonna be specifically for the old firehouse, the EMS building next to it and the property that both, there's
Yeah.
those two lots.
Yeah, so this will discuss how a reuse of the central fire station into more of a community center. So it's preserving the historical aspect of that building, not so much the EMS building, but the historical aspect of the central fire station and how we would reuse that building and restore it to its original historic look. Also making it accessible at the same time with elevator, that sort of thing. So there'll be a long discussion there, presentation, time for questions. And this is in preparation for a potential warrant article if the board so chooses to include that, which will be the first steps in authorizing funding for that project to happen. And the idea is the new fire and new police station, public safety building, right now has an anticipated completion date of a year from this summer, so it's summer of 2027. We need that authorization now to start, to keep any, we don't want to have that building sitting there vacant for a year while we're waiting. We would like a smooth transition into that, so we're not keeping it heated and maintained for nothing. So March 26th, 6 o'clock, and it will be in the cafeteria, not the auditorium. And we will discuss how we can turn that building and a portion of the EMS building into a community space, which we have a bunch of organizations on that committee that some of which used to be in the Araldi building, like the VFW, like the food pantry, that are, for lack of a better word, are homeless right now. We don't have a place for them to meet. They're renting space or they're borrowing space just temporarily. And then we have a bunch of other groups from the youth commission to the historical commission that have been looking for more space. So I don't want to give the whole presentation now, but come on the 26th, then great. Yeah, we'll have more information about it.
When you have this meeting, will you be discussing the condition of the EMS building, whether we're going to restore it at that time?
Yeah,
Just for everybody that can't hear her, maybe it's still on there. She was just asking about, there's no mic or anything back there. So I'm just reiterating so they can hear.
Yeah, so the proposal will be, I'll give you a sneak preview. Yeah, the proposal will be basically to demolish the whole front half of that. The back half, we did the
EMS building. Yeah.
Let me make it clear, the central fire station will remain.
That's not going to be touched.
We are not taking any parts of that down.
There's potentially some interior renovations, but nothing is going to change.
The historical nature of that building will stay the same. The EMS, the ambulance garage, whatever you want to call it, the newer building of the two that's falling apart. The engineers have said the front half's not worth saving. That's where that crazy facade is and the weird single sloped roof that, anyway, it's rotting away. That will be torn down, but the back half is usable enough that we can keep the back half basically where the ambulances park, add a roof to it.
Don't give it all away.
And that could be usable space, but it will look much different. Yeah.
You'll have to come to the presentation if you want to know anything.
Say, I want to everybody to go to a building.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Neither do we. So thank you. Good question.
we have some cool renderings to show you, but you got to come to the meeting to see it.
Anything else?
That's all I have for tonight.
All right. Our next regular meeting is March 17th. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.